Stay still or your spouse pays the price. No one will believe you. Your husband gets it worse. You people always lie.
Union protects us.
Stay still or your spouse pays the price. Detective Marcus Chen's voice cuts through the darkness as his boot crushes down on Rebecca Martinez's chest. Crimson droplets fall from her torn lip onto pristine white tile. "Detective, please, this is a misunderstanding," Carlos whispers from restraints, his tone trembling. "Nobody here contacted emergency services." "Quiet," Chen wrenches Rebecca's limb backward. "Household violence, obstruction, your kind always fabricates stories." Carlos attempts once more, softer now. "Sir, perhaps verify the location." "I told you to be silent." Chen's colleague examines Carlos's identification. The cool night air carries dispatcher voices from additional response vehicles coordinating positions. Chen smirks at what seems like a straightforward arrest in Orange County's affluent district. "Where are you from? Tell us in the comments below. And if you're loving this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more." Chen reads the license carefully. His satisfaction vanishes instantly. His fingers begin trembling. "What's happening?" his colleague questions. Chen rereads the identification repeatedly. The shield on his uniform suddenly feels unbearably heavy. 12:37 a.m., the emergency line crackles through Orange County Communications Center. "Domestic altercation at 1358 Riverside Boulevard. Violent shouting. Someone's being seriously injured." Operator Linda Santos enters the location into the database. She's processed 52 crisis calls tonight spanning 4 patrol zones. Family disputes, intoxicated motorists, minor thefts. Just another typical Thursday evening in Southern California. She overlooks the critical error. The unknown caller mentioned 1385 Riverside Boulevard, 4 blocks distant, where an inebriated university student recently hurled furniture at his partner. But Santos enters 1358 instead. Detective Marcus Chen accepts the dispatch. 9 years serving, 14 commendations, absolute intolerance for wealthy people's complications. His marked patrol vehicle speeds through Orange County's priciest community, beyond manicured gardens and foreign luxury automobiles. "Another evening in utopia," Chen tells his colleague, Detective Thomas Wright. "Rich individuals quarreling over prenuptial agreements and investment portfolios." Wright adjusts his protective gear, preferable to pursuing gang members through housing projects. "Absolutely correct." Chen accelerates past dormant estates worth fortunes. These entitled individuals believe wealth purchases immunity from accountability. Chen carries 9 previous grievances for disproportionate force. His commanders label them interpersonal conflicts. Criminal defenders call them proof of systematic behavior. Internal oversight calls them concluded without penalties. At 1358 Riverside Boulevard, Federal Appellate Magistrate Carlos Martinez examines intricate legal documents in his walnut-paneled study. Legal texts occupy wall-to-wall shelving. Constitutional jurisprudence volumes, civil liberties precedents, law enforcement abuse case research. His spouse Rebecca organizes medical case files at the Granite Island, preparing for tomorrow's demanding consecutive shift at Orange General Medical Center's Pediatric Critical Care Department. 17 years treating youngsters with terminal illness, injuries, hereditary conditions. She hums quietly while organizing. Their 17-year-old daughter Sophia sleeps above, noise-blocking headphones playing instrumental music. Flawless academic record, complete scholarship to Princeton already guaranteed. The household maintains their accomplishments discreetly. Carlos stretches his spine, glances at his timepiece, nearly completed with the Williams Constitutional Challenge. "Join me upstairs shortly, darling," Rebecca calls gently. "You've been reviewing judicial decisions for 6 consecutive hours." Carlos nods distractedly, returning to complicated Fourth Amendment arguments. 24 distinguished years on the federal tribunal, countless landmark rulings involving law enforcement misconduct, civil liberties infringements, constitutional safeguards. Supreme Court references, scholarly journal publications, speaking invitations at Columbia and Stanford. His judicial peers respect his systematic approach to fairness. Criminal attorneys value his impartiality and legal expertise. Corrupt officers despise him with fierce intensity for his severe sentences and absolute intolerance for badge corruption. None of them possess his residential location. Federal protection protocols maintain judicial households shielded from vengeance. The Martinez family relocated here 3 years ago under rigorous non-disclosure arrangements. Adjacent residents assume Carlos functions as a government litigator or civil servant. Rebecca introduces herself merely as a pediatric care provider. They participate in neighborhood gatherings, support local educational fundraisers, preserve deliberately modest public personas. Chen's patrol vehicle turns onto tree-covered Riverside Boulevard. Decorative lighting illuminates addresses distinctly. 1352, 1354, 1356, 1358. He positions directly before the target location. The entrance illumination reveals professional gardening and a premium vehicle exceeding his yearly earnings. Appears rather peaceful for violent domestic activity, Wright observes through the windshield. They consistently appear peaceful until fatalities occur. Chen adjusts his equipment belt, verifies his electroshock device and restraints. Wealthy families simply conceal their dysfunction superior to impoverished ones. Radio communications continue throughout other sectors. Additional response vehicles patrol separate neighborhoods tonight. Regulations assign 2 detectives to nonviolent household calls in secure, prosperous areas. Chen and Wright manage this independently. Chen approaches the refined entrance door. Through expansive viewing windows, he observes Carlos Martinez's outline bent over legal papers. A minority man inside an upscale residence after midnight, surrounded by texts and dispersed documents. Chen's prejudiced mindset immediately presumes criminal enterprise, narcotic distributors calculating revenues, stolen property cataloging. Something undoubtedly illegal transpires in a residence this luxurious. Rebecca Martinez opens the entrance before Chen can announce, wearing medical attire and a worried expression. "Detectives, is something wrong? We didn't summon anyone." Chen pushes beyond her into the foyer without authorization. "Step aside, madam. We obtained reports of household violence at this location." "That's impossible," Rebecca states calmly. "We've been occupied quietly all evening. My husband is working in his study. I'm in the preparation area. No disputes, no violence." Wright follows Chen inside, palm positioned on his communication device. The marble entrance gleams beneath crystal lighting fixtures. Persian carpets, authentic paintings, costly furnishings, too refined for the minority household standing before them. "Where's your spouse?" Chen demands. "Study," Rebecca indicates down the corridor. "But detective, I believe you have the incorrect." "I'll determine what's incorrect," Chen's tone hardens. "Summon him immediately." Carlos appears in the doorway, reading spectacles still positioned on his features, legal documents clutched in his left palm. "What appears to be the situation, detectives?" Chen observes a tall minority man in an expensive community after midnight. Must be criminal. "Someone reported you assaulting your spouse," Chen declares bluntly. "I beg your pardon," Carlos's eyebrows elevate. "Detective, there's evidently been some error. We haven't experienced any disputes tonight. This is a tranquil household." "Don't fabricate stories to me," Chen advances closer to Carlos. "We receive household calls here constantly. Your demographic can't manage your temperaments." Rebecca flinches at "your demographic." Carlos's jaw tightens marginally. "Detective," Carlos speaks deliberately, cautiously. "I guarantee you there's been no household disturbance here. Perhaps you intended a separate location. Riverside Boulevard has multiple properties." "Are you instructing me how to perform my duties?" Chen's palm moves to his baton. Wright activates his recording device. standard procedure for domestics. The crimson recording indicator blinks continuously. Not whatsoever. Carlos raises both palms peacefully. I'm merely proposing you might want to double verify the location with communications. I verified it twice. Chen fabricates smoothly. 1358 Riverside Boulevard, household violence occurring, and here you are, a minority male with defensive wounds on your spouse. Rebecca touches her features reflexively. No wounds exist. Detective, I work at the medical center. This is my professional attire, not. I observe bruising around your eyes. Another fabrication. Fresh injuries, he struck you tonight. No, Rebecca shakes her head. You're mistaken, I haven't been injured. I'm a pediatric care provider. I would recognize if. Stop shielding him, Chen indicates Carlos. I recognize abuse when I observe it. You're frightened to reveal the truth because he's standing present. Carlos takes a measured step forward. Sir, with respect, you're making grave accusations based on. Retreat, Chen's voice detonates through the residence. When authority meets arrogance, innocent families pay the price. I'm not advancing toward you, Carlos says quietly. I'm standing in my personal residence. Your residence? Chen laughs harshly. Let me speculate. Narcotic proceeds purchased this location. Human trafficking, criminal associations. No possibility you can afford this legitimately. The prejudice impacts like a physical assault. Carlos's composure fractures slightly. Detective, I work in governmental legal administration, Carlos explains calmly. My spouse is a registered care provider. We acquired this residence through legitimate. Governmental legal administration. Chen ridicules the phrase. Correct, public defender income. This residence costs $3 million. Are you claiming the government compensates you sufficiently for this? Rebecca steps nearer to her spouse. Detectives, if you'll simply verify our credentials, you'll observe we're precisely who we claim to be. I'll verify whatever I choose to verify. Chen's palm moves to his restraints. Currently, I'm investigating household battery and possible narcotic distribution. Narcotic distribution? Carlos's voice sharpens. Based on what proof? Based on you matching the description. Chen grins coldly. Minority male, upscale residence, anxious behavior, spouse with defensive injuries. I don't have defensive injuries, Rebecca protests. Yet, Chen's grin widens. The threat hangs in the atmosphere like toxin. Right shifts uncomfortably. Perhaps we should. Perhaps you should remain silent and let me manage this, Chen interrupts his colleague. I've got sufficient cause for detention. Sufficient cause for what? Carlos questions. Household battery, narcotic possession, resisting detention. I haven't resisted anything, Carlos points out. You haven't been detained yet. Chen reaches for his restraints. Carlos instinctively retreats. Rebecca moves protectively toward her spouse. Don't move, Chen shouts. Both of you, hands visible. The recording device captures everything. Audio preserves every utterance, every threat, every moment of intensification. Rebecca Martinez positions directly between Chen and her spouse. Please, detective, we can resolve this peacefully. Chen's fist connects with Rebecca's features before anyone can respond. She stumbles backward, crimson immediately streaming from her nasal cavity. Carlos lunges forward instinctively. Right tackles him from behind, forcing him face first against the marble surface. Release her, Carlos shouts as Right forces his limbs behind his spine. Quiet! Chen kicks Rebecca in the ribs as she attempts to stand. She gasps, doubles over, clutches her side. Stop! Carlos struggles against the restraints Right secures around his wrists. She's a care provider. She hasn't done anything. She interfered with a law enforcement investigation. Chen grabs Rebecca's hair, yanks her upright. That's obstruction of justice. Rebecca's medical training activates despite the pain. Probable rib fracture, nasal bleeding suggesting broken cartilage, scalp trauma from hair pulling. She catalogs each injury automatically. Detectives, please, she whispers through swelling lips. We have a teenage daughter sleeping upstairs. Should have considered that before you resisted detention. Chen backhands her across the mouth. Rebecca's lip splits open. Crimson spatters across white marble. Her attire darkens with red stains. Wright restrains Carlos on the surface. Chen, perhaps we should. Perhaps you should control your suspect. Chen kicks Rebecca again, this time in the kidney region. She collapses completely. Carlos's rage builds like pressure in a vessel. 24 years of judicial restraint, constitutional expertise, civil liberties knowledge, all useless while watching his spouse brutalized. You're making an error, Carlos says through clenched teeth. The only error is you believing you can reside in a residence like this. Chen stomps on Rebecca's palm. Bones crack audibly. Rebecca screams. The sound echoes through expensive corridors. Adjacent, Mrs. Johnson wakes to shouting. She peers through bedroom drapes, observes patrol vehicles, contacts emergency services. This is Margaret Johnson at 1360 Riverside Boulevard. Detectives are assaulting a woman in my neighbor's residence. She's screaming for assistance. Dispatch supervisors immediately. Across the boulevard, university student David Kim records everything on his device from his bedroom aperture. Recording device angles don't capture this perspective. Kim's footage shows clear law enforcement misconduct. Chen drags Rebecca upright by her broken palm. She nearly loses consciousness from pain. Where are the narcotics? Chen demands. We don't have narcotics, Rebecca gasps. I'm a pediatric care provider. Verify my credentials. Fabricating stories. Chen punches her abdomen. Rebecca doubles over, retching. Carlos calculates rapidly. Disproportionate force, Fourth Amendment infringements, due process infringements, civil liberties infractions under Section 1983. This detective just committed multiple felonies on camera. My spouse needs medical attention, Carlos states formally. I'm requesting supervisory response and emergency medical assistance. You're not requesting anything. Chen kicks Rebecca while she's down. You're under detention for household battery, narcotic possession, and resisting detention. I haven't resisted anything, Carlos repeats. Yet, Chen's boot finds Rebecca's ribs again. Rebecca's medical training continues assessing damage. Definite rib fractures, possible collapsed lung, facial trauma requiring reconstructive procedures, palm fractures needing orthopedic intervention, kidney damage requiring monitoring. Please, she whispers, I need to reach a medical center. You need to stop fabricating about the narcotics. Chen searches through her attire pockets roughly. No narcotics, no weapons, just facility credentials, stethoscope, medical implements. Orange General Medical Center. Chen reads her credentials. Pediatric Critical Care Department, Dr. Rebecca Martinez. Care provider, Rebecca corrects weakly. Pediatric care provider. Same distinction. Chen throws the credentials across the chamber, probably stealing medical narcotics to distribute. The accusation reveals Chen's complete ignorance of facility protocols, narcotic security, medical licensing. Any investigation would prove its absurdity within hours. Carlos memorizes every detail, every utterance, every action. Federal litigators will need comprehensive proof for the civil liberties case he's already constructing in his mind. Detective Wright, Wright says quietly, perhaps we should report this, obtain some supervisors here. I am the supervisor on this assignment, Chen fabricates again, and I declare these two are proceeding to detention. Mrs. Johnson's second emergency call crackles through communications. The detective is still assaulting the woman. She's bleeding heavily. This is disproportionate force. Where are the supervisors? Chen's radio remains silent. He's ignored 4 communications attempts to verify his status. Rebecca coughs up crimson, possible internal injuries. She needs emergency department care immediately. Sir, she addresses Chen weakly, I'm experiencing symptoms of internal bleeding. Without medical attention, I could expire. Dramatic fabrications. Chen kicks her one final time. Carlos watches his spouse's crimson pool on marble surfaces they selected together. In the bedrooms above, their daughter somehow still sleeps. In courtrooms throughout America, Chen's career just ended, though he doesn't recognize it yet. Wright finally activates his radio. Communications, show us code 4 at 1358 Riverside Boulevard. 2 in custody, requesting medical response for injuries sustained during detention. Chen glares at his colleague but doesn't contradict the medical request. Rebecca Martinez lies motionless on expensive marble, breathing shallowly, bleeding from multiple injuries, while her spouse calculates the precise federal statutes that will destroy Detective Marcus Chen's existence. Wright checks Carlos's identification wallet, still keeping his knee pressed against Carlos's spine. Crimson from Rebecca's injuries stains the marble around them. "Let's examine what we've obtained here," Wright mutters, flipping through cards and credentials. Chen stands over Rebecca's motionless form, breathing heavily from exertion. Perspiration beads on his forehead. Probably stolen payment cards, counterfeit credentials, the usual distributor belongings. License states Carlos J. Martinez, Wright reads aloud. Location matches, born 1980, good, real identity makes processing easier. Chen adjusts his duty belt, satisfied with his work. What else is present? Wright continues searching through the wallet. Payment cards, insurance cards, family photographs. Then his fingers discover something unusual, a thick official-looking credential with federal insignias. "There's some kind of governmental credential here," Wright says, squinting at the card. "Probably counterfeit," Chen dismisses. "These distributors love displaying phony federal shields, makes them feel important." Wright holds the card closer to the illumination. His expression transforms. "Chen, you need to observe this." "Just read it aloud, I'm occupied." Chen kicks Rebecca's leg to determine if she's conscious. Wright's voice becomes uncertain. It states Federal Appellate Tribunal. Chen freezes mid-motion. His boot stops inches from Rebecca's body. "What did you state?" "Federal Appellate Tribunal," Wright repeats slowly. "United States Tribunal of Appeals, 10th Circuit." The utterances hang in the atmosphere like toxic vapor. Chen's confident smirk fades. His palms begin trembling almost imperceptibly. "Let me observe that." Chen snatches the credential from Wright's palms. He reads the text once, twice, thrice. Each reading makes his features paler. Carlos J. Martinez, Federal Appellate Tribunal Magistrate, United States Tribunal of Appeals, 10th Circuit. The official photograph matches the man restrained on the surface. The federal insignia looks authentic. The security features appear genuine. Chen's world tilts sideways. Justice delayed becomes justice delivered when truth finds its voice. This has to be counterfeit," he whispers. But deep in his core, he recognizes it's genuine. The upscale residence, the educated speech patterns, the calm demeanor under pressure, the spouse's medical credentials, everything suddenly makes sense. "Oh no," Wright breathes. "Chen, we just—" Quiet, Chen's voice cracks. "Let me think." Carlos Martinez remains silent on the surface, still restrained, watching Chen's psychological collapse with professional interest. 24 years of judicial experience taught him to recognize panic when he observes it. Chen stares at the credential again. Federal Magistrate, Federal Appellate Tribunal Magistrate. The implications cascade through his mind like dominoes falling. Federal magistrates have federal law enforcement connections. FBI operatives, U.S. Marshals, Department of Justice litigators, congressional oversight committees. Federal magistrates sentence corrupt detectives. "Right," Chen says quietly. "Deactivate your recording device." "What? Why?" "Deactivate your recording device right now." Wright hesitates. "Chen, that's against protocol. We can't." "I stated deactivate it." Chen's voice explodes through the residence. But it's too late. Everything is already preserved. Every punch, every kick, every prejudiced slur, every fabrication, every infringement of civil liberties, constitutional jurisprudence, federal statutes. Carlos Martinez finally speaks. His voice carries new authority. "Detective Chen." Chen spins around. The restrained man on the surface now sounds completely different. Judicial, commanding, dangerous. "Yes, sir." Chen's voice barely rises above a whisper. You have just committed multiple felonies against a federal magistrate and his spouse. These include infringement of civil liberties under color of authority, assault under federal jurisdiction, and constitutional infractions that carry mandatory minimum sentences. The utterances hit Chen like physical assaults. Each legal term represents years in federal confinement. Your recording device preserved proof of each crime. Your colleague witnessed each infringement. My neighbor contacted for a supervisory response. My spouse requires immediate medical attention. Carlos's tone never rises, never shows anger. Pure judicial authority. You have approximately 90 seconds before additional response vehicles arrive. I propose you use that time to request emergency medical assistance for my spouse and to contact your supervisor. Chen stares at the federal credential in his trembling palms. His career, pension, freedom, future, everything he worked for just evaporated in 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Wright activates his radio with trembling fingers. Communications, we need immediate medical response at 1358 Riverside Boulevard. Multiple injuries. Also requesting supervisory response. And Wright, Carlos adds calmly, you might want to request internal oversight. Chen's legs nearly give out. Internal oversight means investigation. Investigation means federal litigators. Federal litigators means Carlos Martinez's colleagues in the federal courthouse. The same courthouse where Chen will eventually stand trial for civil liberties infractions. Rebecca Martinez coughs up more crimson on marble that costs more than Chen's yearly earnings. 12:56 a.m. paramedics arrive first. Rebecca Martinez receives emergency treatment on her own marble surface while federal jurisdiction activates around her. Multiple facial fractures, probable rib fractures, suspected internal bleeding. Emergency responder Rodriguez reports to Orange General Emergency. The patient is conscious, oriented, requesting transfer to the trauma facility. Carlos remains restrained during medical assessment. Chen stands frozen, still clutching the federal credential like proof of his own destruction. Supervisor Daniel Davis arrives as Rebecca is loaded into the ambulance. 23 years supervising patrol vehicles. He's never observed detectives look this terrified. What transpired here? Davis questions Wright. Household call went sideways, Wright stammered. The suspect resisted detention. My spouse interfered. Davis examines Rebecca's crimson on expensive marble. Then he looks at Carlos Martinez, still restrained, perfectly calm despite his spouse's brutal injuries. You the homeowner? Davis questions Carlos. Federal Appellate Tribunal Magistrate Carlos Martinez, 10th Circuit, Carlos responds evenly. Your detectives assaulted my spouse based on false accusations at the incorrect location. Davis's stomach drops. Federal magistrate, incorrect location, preserved assault. Chen, come here now. Chen approaches like a condemned man walking to execution. Davis notices his trembling palms, pale complexion, terror-filled eyes. Did you verify the location before entry? Davis questions. Yes, sir. 1358 Riverside Boulevard. Did you confirm the household disturbance report? The spouse had defensive injuries, Chen fabricates desperately. What defensive injuries? Davis demands. I observed crimson from her features hitting the surface after you punched her. Chen's fabrication crumbles. Davis reviews Wright's recording device footage on his patrol vehicle's computer. 4 minutes of clear federal civil liberties infractions. Jesus Christ, Chen, do you realize what you've done? Meanwhile, Carlos begins his methodical legal response. From the rear of Davis's patrol vehicle, he activates connections built over 24 years of federal service. 1:03 a.m. Carlos contacts Federal Bureau of Investigation Assistant Director Catherine Morrison. She answers immediately. Magistrate Martinez, it's nearly 1 a.m. I need the FBI Civil Liberties Division, Carlos states calmly. Orange County detectives just assaulted my spouse under color of authority. Multiple federal infractions preserved on recording device. Morrison's tone sharpens instantly. Are you both secure? My spouse is en route to trauma procedures. I'm currently restrained in a patrol vehicle watching the detectives panic. I'm activating the federal response team. Don't state anything else until the FBI arrives. 1:08 a.m. Internal Oversight Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez receives urgent notification. Federal magistrate, disproportionate force, recording device proof political nightmare. She pulls Chen's personnel file immediately. Her expression darkens with each page. 9 disproportionate force grievances in 19 months. 13 use of force incidents under review. 8 citizen grievances alleging racial prejudice. 3 pending internal oversight investigations already in progress. Rodriguez contacts her supervisor. We have a federal incident. Magistrate Carlos Martinez. Yes, that Magistrate Martinez who sentenced 4 of our detectives last year for civil liberties infractions. 1:14. Rodriguez discovers the financial records. Orange County has compensated $1.4 million in Chen-related settlements over 4 years. 19 separate cases, all involving minority victims, all settled quietly to avoid publicity. The pattern becomes undeniable. Chen targets minority households, uses disproportionate force, files false reports. County settles litigation. Chen returns to patrol. Rodriguez pulls the union agreement. Article 52, Section C. Detectives facing investigation receive full compensation. Administrative duties only until resolution. Section D. Arbitration required before termination. Section E. Personnel records sealed from public disclosure. The system protects Chen while endangering citizens. 1:19 a.m. Prosecutor Patricia Williams receives emergency notification from her night litigator. Federal magistrate assault case. Media attention guaranteed. Williams reviews Chen's detention record. 52 household violence detentions in 13 months. Conviction rate 11%. Criminal defenders consistently claim disproportionate force, planted proof, false testimony. The pattern suggests Chen manufactures cases through misconduct. 1:22 a.m. Commander Robert Hayes arrives from county headquarters. He reviews rights recording device footage twice. Each viewing makes the situation worse. Chen's finished, Hayes tells Davis. Federal litigators will file charges within hours. This is precisely the type of case Magistrate Martinez specializes in. Hayes accesses Chen's training records. Mandatory de-escalation training failed thrice. Prejudice awareness classes completed under protest. Psychological evaluation recommended for counseling. Declined treatment. Red flags everywhere, ignored by supervisors wanting quotas filled. Consider this, Hayes says. How many times has something similar occurred with no cameras, no federal magistrates, no consequences? 1:25 a.m. Carlos researches Chen's cases from Davis's patrol computer. His photographic memory recalls 4 cases where Chen testified before his tribunal. Garcia versus Chen, disproportionate force during traffic stop. County settled $52,000. Thompson versus Chen, false detention, planted narcotics, charges dismissed. County settled $91,000. Santos versus Chen, racial profiling assault. County settled $172,000. Each case featured identical patterns. Traffic stops in minority communities, aggressive intensification, false charges, settlement payments. Chen back on patrol. Carlos's tribunal sentenced other detectives for identical behavior. Chen's supervisors knew his history but failed to intervene. 1:30 a.m. FBI Special Operative David Carter arrives. 16 years investigating law enforcement corruption. He immediately takes control of the crime scene. Magistrate Martinez, I'm Operative Carter, Civil Liberties Division. Are you injured? Minor bruising. My spouse received severe trauma requiring procedures. Carter examines the crimson proof, photographs everything, secures the recording device footage as federal evidence. Detective Chen, you're under federal investigation for infringement of civil liberties under color of authority, assault under federal jurisdiction, and conspiracy to deny constitutional liberties. Chen finally understands federal charges, federal tribunal, federal magistrate's spouse as victim, federal litigators who work with Magistrate Martinez daily. 1:34 a.m. Internal Oversight. Rodriguez interviews neighbors. Mrs. Johnson provides detailed witness testimony. David Kim's device footage shows angles the recording device missed. The detective kept kicking her while she was down, Johnson states. She was begging for assistance. Her spouse was restrained, couldn't defend her. Kim's footage reveals Chen's prejudiced slurs clearly. Audio enhanced by FBI technicians captures every utterance. He called her derogatory names multiple times, Kim reports. Said your demographic can't control temperaments. Pure prejudice. 1:38 a.m. Rodriguez reviews similar cases countywide. Chen's detention patterns target minority communities disproportionately. Grievance-to-conviction ratios suggest systematic false detentions. Database analysis reveals Chen's detentions in white communities, 0 disproportionate force grievances. Detentions in minority communities, 47 disproportionate force grievances. Statistical proof of racial prejudice. 1:42. Federal litigators Jennifer Walsh and Michael Cooper arrive from Los Angeles. Both specialize in law enforcement abuse cases. Both have argued cases before Magistrate Martinez's tribunal. This is textbook section 1983, Walsh tells Cooper. Conspiracy, disproportionate force, denial of constitutional liberties. Federal magistrate as victim guarantees maximum prosecution. Cooper reviews the proof. Recording device footage alone guarantees conviction. Add the pattern proof, witness testimony, expert medical testimony. Chen's looking at mandatory minimum federal time. 1:45 a.m. Carlos's restraints are finally removed. Operative Carter apologizes formally on behalf of federal law enforcement. Magistrate Martinez will handle this investigation personally. Detective Chen will face full federal prosecution. Carlos rubs his wrists, looks at his spouse's crimson still staining the marble. Operative Carter, this isn't about personal vengeance. It's about preventing the next household from experiencing what we just experienced. The federal machinery of fairness begins moving with inexorable precision. 2:22 a.m. Orange County Law Enforcement Union President Marcus Bradley receives the emergency contact from Commander Hayes. Detective Chen, federal magistrate victim, assault preserved on recording device. Jesus Christ, Bradley mutters into his device. Federal magistrate, which circuit? 10th Circuit Appellate Tribunal, Magistrate Carlos Martinez. Bradley's stomach drops. Martinez sentenced 4 county detectives to federal confinement last year for civil liberties infractions. Now one of Bradley's detectives just assaulted Martinez's spouse. Get Thompson here immediately, Bradley orders. Full emergency damage control protocol. 2:30, Attorney Daniel Thompson speeds toward county headquarters, mind racing through defense strategies. 16 years defending problematic detectives, successfully protected dozens from disproportionate force charges. Never faced a federal magistrate victim before. Thompson specializes in law enforcement defense, civil liberties litigation, detective protection. His track record includes 48 successful disproportionate force defenses in 6 years. This is different, Bradley explains when Thompson arrives. Magistrate Carlos Martinez knows law enforcement abuse jurisprudence better than any attorney in California. Thompson's confidence crumbles. He argued 3 cases before Martinez's tribunal last year, remembers Martinez's penetrating legal questions, methodical approach to constitutional jurisprudence, 0 tolerance for badge corruption. Martinez wrote the 10th Circuit opinion that expanded federal civil liberties protections, created legal precedents Thompson now fights against daily. 2:42, Thompson reviews Wright's recording device footage with growing horror, clear disproportionate force against an unarmed woman, prejudiced slurs captured on audio, false accusations documented completely. Every frame strengthens federal prosecution. Every audio clip demonstrates prejudice. Every angle shows constitutional infractions. Chen, what were you thinking? Thompson demands. Thought he was a narcotic distributor, Chen whispers, palms still trembling. Minority individual residing in a residence worth $3 million had to be illegal proceeds. Racial profiling isn't a legal defense, Thompson snaps. It's additional federal proof against you. Thompson recognizes the impossible defense. Video proof, audio preservations, witness testimony, medical documentation, perfect federal civil liberties case. 254, Thompson activates maximum union protection protocols. Transfer Chen to administrative operations immediately, full compensation and benefits during investigation, desk duty pending resolution. Standard delay tactics, protect the detective while proof disappears. Postpone prosecution until witnesses forget details. Negotiate a quiet settlement. Return detective to patrol duties. We're moving Chen out of patrol tonight, Bradley confirms. Administrative assignment with full benefits. Union covers all legal expenses. 3 a.m. intimidation campaign begins targeting witnesses. Detective Wright receives unofficial visits from senior department personnel, suggesting he reconsider his testimony. Memory can be unreliable during high-stress situations, Lieutenant Barnes suggests carefully. Perhaps the magistrate was more aggressive than you initially reported. Perhaps his spouse attacked Chen first. Wright refuses to modify his account. Recording device footage makes fabrications impossible to sustain. I observed what I observed. Chen assaulted that woman without justification. 3:05 a.m. Mrs. Johnson receives an anonymous contact at her residence. Male voice, menacing tone, clear threat. You didn't observe anything at the Martinez residence tonight. Keep your mouth shut if you know what's beneficial for your household. Johnson immediately contacts FBI operative Carter. Federal witness intimidation charges join the expanding case against Chen's associates. 3:11, University student David Kim discovers his vehicle tires slashed in his apartment complex parking area. Threatening note on windshield. Delete the video or face grave consequences. Kim contacts federal operatives immediately. Obstruction of fairness charges multiply against Chen's support network. 3:18, Thompson attempts damage control through friendly media connections. Plant stories questioning Magistrate Martinez's credibility. Suggest Martinez provoked the encounter. Blame the victim. Federal magistrate resides in luxury while criticizing law enforcement budgets. Thompson drafts for sympathetic reporters. Local media outlets refuse the story. Attacking federal magistrates without substantial proof backfires spectacularly in tribunal. 3:25. Union representatives pressure internal oversight Lieutenant Rodriguez to delay her investigation indefinitely. Perhaps wait for federal litigators to decide before proceeding, Bradley suggests diplomatically. No point duplicating investigative efforts unnecessarily. Rodriguez recognizes the standard stall tactic. Federal cases require months to develop. During delays, proof disappears mysteriously. Witnesses relocate conveniently. Memories fade strategically. This investigation continues on schedule, Rodriguez responds firmly. Detective Chen committed documented crimes on camera. Federal or local jurisdiction, he gets prosecuted fully. 3:32. Thompson discovers his personal law school connection to Magistrate Martinez. 24 years ago, Thompson attended UC Berkeley Law School. Carlos Martinez Guest lectured Thompson's constitutional jurisprudence class on civil liberties enforcement. Thompson remembers Martinez's brilliant legal mind, encyclopedic knowledge of federal statutes, passionate commitment to constitutional protections. Now Thompson must defend a client who infringed every principle Martinez taught that semester. 3:39 a.m. Orange General Medical Center security reports suspicious individuals attempting unauthorized access to Rebecca Martinez's protected medical records. Union-connected private investigators seeking proof of pre-existing injuries to undermine assault charges. FBI operatives secure the facility immediately, preventing proof tampering attempts. Rebecca's medical documentation remains protected under federal investigation protocols. 3:45 a.m. County Board of Supervisors receives intense union pressure to negotiate immediate settlement. Pay substantial monetary damages quickly. Transfer Chen to a separate department quietly. Avoid federal prosecution entirely. Magistrate Martinez wants institutional accountability, not personal compensation. FBI Operative Carter informs county officials. Federal criminal charges proceed regardless of any civil settlement agreements. Union escape routes prove ineffective against federal jurisdiction. 3:51, Thompson attempts professional negotiations with federal litigators Walsh and Cooper. Attorney courtesy. Reasonable plea bargain possibilities. Avoid expensive federal trials. Your client brutally assaulted a federal magistrate's spouse on camera. Walsh responds coldly. Multiple civil liberties infractions under Section 1983. No plea bargains available. Cooper adds, Detective Chen chose his criminal actions. Now he faces federal consequences. 3:58 a.m. Chen finally grasps his situation completely. Federal charges in federal tribunal. Federal magistrate as primary victim. Federal litigators who collaborate professionally with that magistrate daily. Union protection doesn't extend to federal jurisdiction. Local political connections don't influence federal litigators. State-level corruption doesn't affect federal civil liberties cases. Thompson reviews federal sentencing guidelines for civil liberties infractions. Mandatory minimum sentences, maximum penalty ranges, no possibility of early parole. Chen, Thompson says quietly, start considering federal confinement reality. Union officials subsequently declined additional media comment beyond statting they will vigorously defend Detective Chen through all available legal avenues. Available legal avenues prove extremely limited against clear federal infractions. The federal fairness machinery continues forward, immune to local corruption and union interference. 4:22. Rebecca Martinez lies unconscious in Orange General's trauma department. Facial reconstruction procedures scheduled for morning. Broken ribs require monitoring for lung puncture. Carlos sits in the facility waiting chamber wearing clothes stained with his spouse's crimson. 24 years of judicial authority feels meaningless watching machines keep Rebecca alive. Dr. Patricia Sanchez delivers Rebecca's medical update. Magistrate Martinez, your spouse's injuries are extensive. Facial fractures, rib damage, possible kidney trauma. Recovery will take months. Carlos nods silently. Months of procedures, physical therapy, psychological counseling, all because Detective Chen observed a minority household in an upscale residence. 4:30 a.m. FBI Operative Carter delivers discouraging news. Sir, we're facing significant resistance from local law enforcement. Proof is being secured, but the union's mobilizing substantial resources. What kind of resistance? Witness intimidation, media manipulation, political pressure. They're treating this like a war. 4:38 a.m. Federal litigator Walsh contacts with complications. Magistrate Martinez, the union's filing motions claiming prosecutorial prejudice, saying you can't be both a victim and a judicial authority. That's legally absurd, Carlos responds. Agreed, but it creates delays. Months of procedural challenges before trial, the union's buying time. 4:45, Thompson's media campaign gains traction. Local news questions federal magistrate salaries, upscale lifestyles, whether Martinez provoked the encounter. Federal magistrate's million-dollar residence raises ethics questions, reads the morning headline. Character assassination begins. Attack the victim's credibility, make the public question whether Martinez deserved protection. 4:52 a.m. Chief Magistrate Patricia Carter contacts Carlos. This situation creates complications for the tribunal. Perhaps consider recusal from law enforcement cases during your recovery. The suggestion hits like ice water. Recusal means Chen's colleagues continue operating without judicial oversight. Are you asking me to abandon my duties because I was victimized? I'm suggesting you avoid the appearance of prejudice during ongoing prosecution. 4:59. Rebecca's daughter Sophia arrives, observes her father covered in crimson, her mother unconscious with breathing machines. Dad, what happened to Mom? Carlos struggles to explain law enforcement misconduct to his teenage daughter. Some law enforcement detectives made errors tonight. Errors? Sophia's voice rises. Mom's in critical care because of errors. 5:06. Thompson files federal motions challenging every piece of proof. Recording device footage allegedly edited. Witness testimony potentially coerced. Medical records possibly falsified. Standard defense tactics create months of delays while Rebecca suffers. 5:13. Union President Bradley holds a press conference defending Chen. Detective Chen responded appropriately to a household violence contact. Subsequent allegations represent prosecutorial overreach. Public opinion begins shifting. Law enforcement supporters rally around Chen. Martinez critics question federal magistrate accountability. 5:20 a.m. Federal litigator Cooper contacts with settlement offers. The county's proposing $2.5 million policy changes, sensitivity training. Chen keeps his pension. No criminal charges. Civil settlement only. Clean slate for Chen. 5:27 a.m. Dr. Sanchez returns with worse news. Your spouse's psychological trauma may be more severe than physical injuries. She's showing signs of PTSD, anxiety about uniformed detectives. Rebecca, who spent 17 years treating sick youngsters, now fears the people supposed to protect youngsters. 5:34. Carlos's law clerk contacts. Sir, criminal defenders are requesting your recusal from 13 pending law enforcement cases. They claim prejudice after your personal experience. Carlos's judicial career fighting law enforcement abuse becomes proof of prejudice against law enforcement. 5:41. Sophia confronts her father directly. Dad, why don't we just take their funds and relocate somewhere secure? The question cuts deeper than Chen's fists. Carlos built his career prosecuting constitutional infractions. Now his household wants him to abandon fairness for security. 5:48 a.m. Carlos sits alone in the facility chapel, questioning everything. Federal jurisdiction, constitutional jurisprudence, civil liberties enforcement, all the legal structures he believed in failed to protect his spouse. Perhaps corrupt detectives always win through union protection. Perhaps fighting back creates more suffering. 5:55 a.m. FBI operative Carter returns with final discouraging news. Sir, we intercepted communications suggesting threats against your household if prosecution continues. Carlos realizes the full cost. Legal battles, character assassination, household threats, spouse traumatized, daughter frightened, career questioned. All to prosecute one detective who will probably get transferred anyway. The system feels designed to break victims who seek fairness. 6:22. Rebecca Martinez wakes briefly in the ICU. Her first utterances through swollen lips. Don't let them escape with this. Carlos squeezes her uninjured palm. We won't. Her voice strengthens despite the pain. Other households. How many other households has Chen injured? 6:30 a.m. The question sparks Carlos's renewed determination. 24 years on the federal tribunal taught him that individual cases reveal systematic patterns. Chen didn't suddenly become violent. Carlos contacts FBI operative Carter. I want to review every grievance against Chen, every litigation, every household he's terrorized. Magistrate Martinez, that could be dozens of cases. Then we contact dozens of households. 6:38 a.m. Social media explodes with support for the Martinez household. David Kim's device footage spreads rapidly. #Justice for Rebecca Martinez trends nationally. Comments flood in. Same thing transpired to my sister in Orange County. Detective Chen threatened my household during a traffic stop. We filed grievances about Chen 4 years ago. Nothing transpired. 6:45 a.m. Maria Rodriguez contacts FBI operative Carter directly. Detective Chen assaulted my son during a traffic stop last year. Carter takes detailed notes, another pattern victim. Why didn't you report it officially? We tried. Internal oversight said insufficient proof. Union attorneys threatened litigation if we talked to the media. 6:52 a.m. Dr. James Washington, prominent civil liberties attorney, contacts Carlos's facility chamber directly. Magistrate Martinez, my firm represents 13 households with Chen-related grievances. We've been building a class action litigation for 3 years. Why haven't you filed? I needed a catalyst, a victim the system couldn't ignore. You're that catalyst. 6:59 a.m. Orange County NAACP President Sharon Davis organizes an emergency community gathering. Word spreads through religious institutions, schools, neighborhood associations. Federal Magistrate Martinez's household was brutalized by the same detective terrorizing our community for years, Davis announces. 7:06 a.m. Local pediatric physicians rally around Rebecca. Dr. Michael Carter, Chief of Pediatrics, issues public statement. Rebecca Martinez has saved countless youngsters' lives. She deserves fairness for the violence inflicted by those sworn to protect households. 7:13. Pastor Robert Williams contacts for peaceful demonstration. Magistrate Martinez fought for civil liberties from the tribunal. Now we fight for him in the boulevards. Religious networks mobilize across Orange County. 7:20 a.m. Chen's other victims step forward publicly. Carmen Garcia, David Thompson, Patricia Santos. Each story follows identical patterns. Traffic stops in minority communities, aggressive intensification, false charges. 7:27 a.m. County Supervisor Janet Thompson receives countless constituent contacts demanding Chen's prosecution. My office has received over 450 contacts this morning, Thompson tells reporters. Citizens want answers about Detective Chen's conduct. 7:34 a.m. High school students at Orange Preparatory organize solidarity demonstration. Sophia Martinez's classmates create #Justice for Mrs. M, share stories of positive interactions with Rebecca. 7:41 a.m. FBI operative Carter's device rings constantly. New witnesses, additional victims, corroborating proof. Magistrate Martinez, we've identified 19 separate households with Chen grievances, most never reported officially due to intimidation. 7:48 a.m. Federal litigator Walsh contacts with encouraging news. The Department of Justice is upgrading this to a federal civil liberties investigation. We're assigning additional litigators. Washington, D.C. attention guarantees serious prosecution. 7:55 a.m. Carlos receives support from judicial colleagues nationwide. Federal magistrates from other circuits contact offering assistance. This affects all of us, says Chief Magistrate Patricia Carter. An attack on one federal household is an attack on judicial independence. 8:02, Rebecca squeezes Carlos's palm again. The stories, all these households we have to fight. Carlos looks at his spouse, battered but determined. Around them, a community mobilizes for fairness. The tide begins turning. Individual victims become a collective voice. Community strength starts overwhelming system corruption. 8:52 a.m. FBI Digital Forensics Specialist Operative Lisa Park contacts Carlos with news that changes everything. Magistrate Martinez, Detective Chen's recording device contained hidden footage. 13 additional minutes he thought he deleted. What kind of footage? Audio of Chen planning your assault before entering your residence. 8:59 a.m. Park plays the recovered audio. Chen's voice in their patrol vehicle, clear and unmistakable. Watch this. I'm going to teach these arrogant people what transpires when they believe they're superior to us. Wright responds, Chen, perhaps we should verify the location first. Forget the location. Minority household in an upscale residence. They're criminals, guaranteed. The premeditation shocks Carlos completely. 9:06. Chen's voice continues planning specific violence. I'm going to rough up whoever answers the door, make them respect authority. These people need to learn their place. What if they're legitimate residents? Wright questions nervously. No such thing, trust me on this. Federal litigators now have preserved confession to conspiracy and premeditated assault. 913. Operative Park explains the discovery. Chen used department software to delete proof, but federal tools recover everything from device memory. How much proof tampering? Extensive. Chen edited footage from 7 other incidents involving minority households. 9:20 a.m. The audio reveals Chen's systematic targeting strategy. I cruise minority communities looking for upscale vehicles, refined residences, create sufficient cause, plant proof if necessary, easy detentions. Sounds uncomfortable. I don't know about this approach, Wright says. Relax, Union protects us. The system's rigged in our favor. 9:27 a.m. Most damaging confession comes next. Last month I assaulted some woman unconscious during a traffic stop. County compensated $60,000 to silence her. Carlos recognizes the Garcia case from Civil Liberties Attorney Washington's list. Made 81 detentions last year, 53 minorities, 0 white people. 9:34, Chen's audio reveals departmental conspiracy. Commander Hayes knows what I do. Internal oversight covers paperwork. Union President Bradley manages legal complications. We're untouchable. Institutional corruption confirmed through preserved confessions. 9:41. Chen specifically targeted Carlos because of his judicial background. Federal magistrates believe they're tough on law enforcement misconduct. I'd appreciate teaching one a lesson personally. The assault wasn't random. Chen deliberately chose a federal magistrate's household. 9:48. Chen's personal audio diary contains the most devastating proof. Rebecca Martinez looked terrified when I started striking her. Excellent. She needed to fear authority. Carlos Martinez couldn't protect his own household. Pathetic federal magistrate. Preserved confession to assault with racial motivation and contempt for judicial authority. 9:55 a.m. Chen planned future violence against the Martinez household. Next time I encounter them, I'll finish what I started. Perhaps visit their daughter's school. Direct threats against federal magistrate's household preserved on department equipment. 10:02 a.m. Operative Park summarizes the legal impact. Magistrate Martinez, this audio eliminates any possibility of plea bargains. Chen confessed to federal crimes while planning continued violence. Federal litigator Walsh joins the contact. This proof guarantees conviction on all charges, maximum sentences under federal guidelines. 10:09, Chen's final preserved statements reveal complete contempt. Internal oversight, FBI, federal litigators, they're all weak. The union protects detectives who take real action. Martinez believes his courthouse protects him. I know where he resides. 10:16 a.m., the proof overwhelms any possible defense. Chen's own voice confessing to premeditated assault based on racial prejudice, systematic targeting of minority households, proof tampering across multiple cases, threats against federal judicial household, conspiracy with departmental officials. The case becomes unwinnable for the defense. 6 p.m. Orange County City Council emergency session. Council chambers pack beyond capacity. Community members demand fairness. Media cameras capture everything. Chen sits beside Attorney Thompson, visibly trembling. Council President Janet Thompson contacts for order. This emergency session addresses Detective Marcus Chen's conduct and departmental accountability. Carlos Martinez enters through the rear doors. The chamber falls silent. Every eye follows the federal magistrate whose household was brutalized 13 hours earlier. Rebecca remains hospitalized, but her spirit fills the chamber through community support. 6:14 p.m. FBI operative Carter presents proof to the packed chamber. Detective Chen's own preserved confessions prove premeditated assault, racial targeting, and systematic civil liberties infractions. Carter plays audio excerpts. Chen's voice echoes through speakers. I'm going to teach these arrogant people what transpires when they believe they're superior to us. The community gasps. Some people cry. Others show barely contained anger. 6:21 p.m. Chen's victims testify publicly for the first time. Maria Rodriguez takes the microphone with trembling palms. Detective Chen broke my son's nasal bone during a traffic stop, called him prejudiced slurs. We were too frightened to report it. Carmen Garcia follows. Chen put me in the facility. County compensated us to stay quiet, but we're not quiet anymore. David Thompson's voice shakes with emotion. Chen planted narcotics in my vehicle. I spent 7 months in detention for crimes I didn't commit. 6:28 p.m. Thompson attempts damage control. Detective Chen made errors under pressure. He deserves counseling, not criminal prosecution. The community erupts. Shouts of criminal and prejudiced fill the chamber. Thompson gavels for order. Carlos Martinez stands slowly. The chamber becomes completely silent. 6:35 p.m. Carlos approaches the speaker's podium. 24 years of judicial authority fills his voice. Detective Chen didn't make errors. He committed premeditated federal crimes. His own preserved confessions prove racial prejudice, systematic targeting, proof tampering. Carlos's calm tone carries absolute moral authority. Every utterance devastates Chen's defense. Chen specifically targeted my household because I'm a federal magistrate who prosecutes law enforcement abuse. This was calculated vengeance against judicial oversight. 6:42 p.m. Carlos continues methodically destroying Chen's credibility. Chen's audio diary reveals contempt for constitutional jurisprudence, federal authority, civil liberties protections. He preserved himself planning future violence against my teenage daughter. Chen slumps deeper into his chair. Thompson frantically scribbles notes but finds no defense against preserved confessions. This detective represents everything wrong with unaccountable law enforcement: racial prejudice, disproportionate force, proof tampering, institutional protection of criminal behavior. 6:49 p.m., the community rises in standing ovation. Carlos's judicial authority, combined with personal victimization, creates an unassailable moral position. Chen attempts to leave. FBI operatives block the exits. Detective Chen, Operative Carter announces, "You're under federal detention for infringement of civil liberties under color of authority." The restraints click with satisfying finality, the same restraints Chen used on Carlos 13 hours earlier. 6:56 p.m. Chen's final humiliation comes as Operative Carter reads federal charges: conspiracy to infringe civil liberties, assault under federal jurisdiction, proof tampering, threat to federal judicial household. Each charge carries mandatory minimum sentences. Chen realizes federal jurisdiction means no union protection, no local influence, no political connections. Federal litigators, federal tribunal, federal confinement. 7:03 p.m. Council President Thompson addresses the packed chamber. Effective immediately, Detective Marcus Chen is terminated from Orange County Sheriff's Department. All cases involving Chen will be reviewed for abuse. The community explodes in cheers. Fairness served publicly. Accountability demanded and delivered. Thompson sits alone at the defense table. His client just confessed to federal crimes on department equipment. No appeals possible against preserved proof. 7:10 p.m. Carlos Martinez delivers closing statement. Today proves the system can function when citizens demand accountability. Detective Chen will face federal prosecution for his crimes against my household and this entire community. Fairness delayed isn't fairness denied when truth has a voice. The federal insignia Chen feared 13 hours ago just destroyed his existence completely. Federal fairness prevails over local corruption. 4 months later, Detective Marcus Chen receives 16 years in federal confinement. No parole, no appeals, no union protection reaches federal jurisdiction. Detective Thomas Wright testifies against departmental corruption, receives immunity for cooperation. Commander Hayes faces federal investigation. Internal Oversight Lieutenant Barnes transfers quietly. Union President Bradley resigns in disgrace. Attorney Thompson loses 13 clients after Chen's conviction. Rebecca Martinez recovers slowly. Facial reconstruction succeeds. Ribs heal completely. Psychological trauma requires ongoing therapy. She returns to pediatric care with renewed purpose, treating youngsters whose households fear law enforcement violence. Carlos Martinez resumes judicial duties with enhanced authority. His experience as a victim strengthens his civil liberties decisions. Criminal defenders can't claim prejudice against someone who survived law enforcement misconduct personally. Sofia Martinez testifies before Congress about law enforcement reform. Her mother's assault became a catalyst for federal legislation requiring recording device audits, racial prejudice training, and abuse databases. Orange County implements comprehensive reforms. New sheriff, revised use of force policies, community oversight committees, federal monitoring for 6 years. Chen's 19 identified victims receive fairness through federal civil liberties prosecutions. Pattern proof from his audio confessions enables multiple convictions. The incorrect residence changed everything. Chen chose the incorrect household, incorrect federal magistrate's spouse, incorrect system to challenge. Sometimes fairness requires personal cost. Sometimes truth demands courage. Sometimes the correct person gets targeted by the incorrect system. How do we ensure accountability protects everyone's households, not just federal magistrates? Share your commitment to fairness below. And if you found this story powerful, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Narrative Telling for more stories where truth defeats corruption and ordinary households find extraordinary fairness. Where are you from? Tell us in the comments below. And if you're loving this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more.